One of the many tasks that we have ahead of us in the coming weeks is to determine the essential standards of our course. The D128 Remote and Blended Remote Learning Plan says that essential curriculum is defined as the core skills and knowledge from each course that have been identified by state standards, teachers, and teaching teams. The essential curriculum is not the entire curriculum. It leaves time and space for reteaching and for including teachers' unique interests and strengths. Teaching teams shall address the essential curriculum of the course, refined as necessary to ensure that it is viable for each school. So why must we narrow down our curriculums to the essential standards for remote learning? To begin, because remote learning takes more time. Listen to some testimonial from a summer school teacher who tried their hand at remote teaching this summer. Think time, wait time, modeling of ideas all look different in a remote setting. Students and teachers are receiving less body language and physical cues to affirm whether someone is on the right track, which demands fitting and opportunities for check-ins and reflections to see where students are in their progress. More time is spent getting ourselves ready to speak, to listen, and to get into groups. We have less control over our own environment and no control over our students' environment. All of these factors impact the pacing of our class time and the ability to achieve the volume of curriculum that we are used to. So to put it simply, remote teaching takes more time and we'll have to narrow down those skills and standards to adjust. Second, because new grading policies will take more time. Again, according to the D128 Remote and Blended Remote Learning Plan, during the 2021 school year, redo and revision opportunities for essential assignments and assessments will be provided in all courses in order to provide students with the time needed to relearn and demonstrate mastery of course standards. Redo and revision timelines will be determined by individual teachers and published to students. This will mean more work completion for students and more feedback and assessing for teachers. To make this manageable for both, we need to pare down our curriculums to carve out space for redos and revisions. Also, because social emotional learning is important now more than ever. As you prepare to welcome students and adults back to school, you face the layered impact of school closures, the pandemic, racial inequities amplified by nationwide mobilization, and more. Social emotional learning offers a powerful means to support one another, children and adults, during this challenging time, as put by CASEL.org, a source we'll dive into later this week. Social emotional learning is important for our students, but it takes time. And to make room for this, we're going to need to pare down our curriculums and prioritize the essential skills and standards. In sum, educators are charged with ensuring that all students have the opportunity to be successful despite the challenges of remote learning. This will require some narrowing down of those skills and standards. So we've talked about why it's important to narrow down our curriculum, but how do we go about doing so? Recommendation number 1 is to begin with the work from last year's PLTs. Good news, we've already begun this work. If you recall, outcome number 1 in our PLTs last year was a guaranteed and viable curriculum. This means that we've already reviewed relevant standards, selected standards that are essential to the course, and ensured that essential standards are realistic in the time frame. Now that time frame was for traditional teaching, so we're going to need to go back and re-examine those priorities in the context of remote teaching. This might mean even more paring down of essential skills and standards. Recommendation number 2, narrow further by considering these criteria with your course teams. These 3 criteria might help you determine and prioritize essential skills. Criteria number 1, endurance. What are the skills and understandings that your students will use beyond the completion of your course? What are those important takeaways that your students are going to use as they continue their learning? Criteria number 2, leverage. What are those skills that students use across disciplines? Undoubtedly, all of our courses offer important skills and strategies that students need to be successful across all of their classes. Prioritize those as you consider your course content. And criteria number 3, readiness. What are the skills to prepare students for the next level or advanced courses in the discipline? This might require some vertical alignment to talk to your students' future teachers and to work with them to prioritize the essential skills and standards. Recommendation 3, if possible, consider reordering your scope and sequence to prioritize essential skills and standards. If you structure your units so that the early units prioritize key skills and standards and you save those less essential ones for later units, you won't run the risk of running short on time and not addressing key standards for your course. If you get to that final unit, great. If not, you've built yourself some extra time and wiggle room to accommodate slower paced learning for earlier units. And finally, remember, this is not forever. We're only being asked to restructure our skills and standards for remote teaching. This too shall pass. and we'll be able to get back to teaching as usual.